What I do is I am an intuitive healer. And so I do a lot of deep work with people on subconscious reprogramming. There is a universal law called the law of reflections that states people, places, circumstances, situations, just like everything around you is going to reflect back to you.
That is such a strong point that you just made, because oftentimes kind people, or people who are kind and people who are, always going out of their way, you're right, they are the ones to get treated poorly because they put themselves last.
So in order to actually reprogram your energy, specifically with self-love, we need to make sure we are doing something for ourselves first thing in the morning before we are showing up for anyone or anything else. I do everything I'm supposed to. I check all my boxes. I run my business. I do my money affirmations.
My next question to that is, how do we identify these root causes? Because, it's 2025. We all live such busy lives. We're always hustling. It's like that go, go, go. But we don't pause to really reflect on what's happening in our lives. Do we even feel stuck? We see our credit card bills. We see our bank account. Clear is sometimes the things that we do in our day-to-day, we're doing this because we're going after the titles, we're going after people pleasing, we're going after doing something just because someone else told us to, right? But our heart isn't there, our gut isn't there. Like, for example, we want to be engineers, we want to be doctors, we want to be lawyers just because, it'll make our family feel happy, or because someone else told us that that's what's going to pay the bills. But somewhere in us, that's not where our heart is. What happens when you stop chasing answers outside of you and start trusting what you already know? In this episode, I sat down with Melissa, an intuitive healer and mindset expert who blends neuroscience, energetics, and universal principles to help women unlock their full potential. And this conversation covered a lot, from why so many of us feel stuck or burnt out to how emotional triggers actually hold the key to deeper healing. We talked about self-trust, nervous system regulation, identity shifts, and how you can start making decisions that feel good in your body, not just look good on paper. Melissa breaks it all down in a way that's clear, practical, and grounded in both science and spirituality. Whether you're on a healing journey, navigating change, or just trying to get clear on what you really want, this episode gives you language and the tools to reconnect with yourself. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to come home to yourself. Let's get into it. Hey, Melissa. It's so nice to see you and so nice to talk to you today. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to be here with you because I know that we are going to just yap on and on about such good stuff and also help the listeners as much as possible.
Yes, totally. And I know, and from, just my time speaking with you and just following you on Instagram, I see you as the queen of intuition. And I'm just so confident that our listeners are going to get so much value out of this conversation. So let's get to it. So can you give us a brief introduction about who you are? What's your journey? What do you like to identify yourself as? And what got to where you are today?
Totally. So it's so funny because I feel like people typically have their little elevator pitch ready for this. And I'm more of a just like, go to my Instagram, you'll kind of figure out what I do. Obviously, I'm going to give you guys an answer here, but it's just, you'll get way more context if you just go creep on my page. But basically what I do is I am an intuitive healer. And so I do a lot of deep work with people on subconscious reprogramming. I've trained my intuition down to a science to find exactly where, we've got energetic blocks going on, why we're not getting what we desire, how we can shift those things. And ultimately just get the things we desire in our dream life, whether it's the relationships, the money, the career, success, whatever it is that your soul desires. It desires that for a reason. and it is meant for you. It's just that sometimes as humans, we get in our own way, and I help my clients with that. So that's where I'm at now. It's definitely been an interesting journey to get here. I actually, in like the traditional formal education route, I went to college, got a degree basically in healthcare. Then I went to law school, got a JD, decided not to become a lawyer, started a fitness business, scaled that for the last, I would say it took like 5 to 6 years of my time. And that was incredible. And then I have been doing this work like front facing with clients, pivoted my business for about almost 2 years now. So that's like the brief overview.
Wow, that's awesome. You took several pivots in your career.
Yeah, it's been very uncomfortable, but my soul loves to get uncomfortable. So here we are.
That's awesome. And I feel like, every time we get this calling inside of us, we don't tune into it. Majority of us, right? Because we're scared to take that leap of faith. But it's amazing that you took those leaps of faith and you actually, got to a point where you're happy and you're doing your soul's purpose essentially. And so I'm assuming that all of that is because, you have that intuitive healing spirit and also that calling for that. So because, I see you talk so much about the subconscious mind and really just getting to our higher self, listening to our higher self. Let's start with the foundation. What is the power of our mind?
Totally. So I'm sure a lot of you guys listening have heard the concept about how our thoughts create our reality, but then it just kind of stops there. Like a lot of mainstream teachings don't really explain scientifically how that happens. Or
yeah, it's like we've read The Secret and then,
yes.
Where our minds are like open to,
yes.
creating our reality.
Exactly. So it's like we kind of get a little grasp on it, but then we don't get the tools on how to actually shift things. And you can't, shift and reprogram what you don't understand. So one of my highest values with any time that I'm speaking or teaching, I don't care if it's a $0 offering, I'm going to just blow your minds with the tools that I give, because I'm just so big on actually delivering things that are going to shift your energy, your programming, your brain, your life, right? This is not just going to be some foo-foo, like, here's a cute journal prompt, you're going to feel good for a day, and then you're just going to return to the energy that you came here with. So, circling back to the question with how our thoughts actually become our reality, basically what is happening is whatever thoughts that we have on repeat, those start to create neural pathways in our brain. And as we continue to have those repeated thoughts, those neural pathways basically get stronger, so much so that they become our new default. And when something is your default, when it is what's called a non-declarative memory, so just autopilot, then it's in your subconscious mind to the point where we don't even have to think about it, right? It's moved from the conscious brain where we're thinking about whatever we're thinking about to the subconscious where it's on autopilot. The problem here is that because it's in the subconscious, we struggle to see those programs that aren't serving us. So that's where I come in, and we'll get into that later. But to follow along this vein, we've got these subconscious programs running. And what happens is those thoughts and beliefs from those programs drop down into our energy field, and science calls this the electromagnetic field. It is exactly what it says it is, a field of energy that basically gets broadcasted out away from us, out into the world. And whatever's going on in our subconscious is what's programming and coding in to our EMF, is what I'm going to call it, just because that's easier to say for electromagnetic field. I like to call it the creator field because this is what is quite literally creating our reality. And then to finish this whole thing off, there is a universal law called the law of reflections that states people, places, circumstances, situations, just like everything around you is going to reflect back to you the programs that you have going on. So that's how we can kind of hack the system and realize, oh, here's this repeating pattern in my life that I don't like, or this person treats me in a way that I don't enjoy. So let's reverse engineer it, because everything starts with our minds.
So the last thing that you said, like this person is treating me the same way I was treated before, or I keep getting treated this way, for example. What does that mean internally for us? Like, does it mean that I subconsciously treat myself that way, or is it that I think that way to treat other people?
Such a good question. So this one is a bit of a hot take, but we're going to debunk karma right now.
Such a big word.
Soul karma is very real, just in terms of like, okay, a soul, lives a lifetime, and if it helped people in that lifetime, it's going to come back and have even better opportunities, right? There are some souls who choose not to help people and like they choose to do bad things, right? They're going to come back in their lifetime and they're going to have to basically repay that karmic debt. However, when we're talking about current lifetime, the whole concept of karma being, oh, you get back what you put out into the world. Well, okay, this is great in theory. Like, please go be a wonderful person, be kind to people, help others, etc. However, how many people do we know that are super reliable? They will answer your phone call. They will drop anything at the drop of a hat to just support you, take your dog outside, show up to the hospital, whatever it is. But then other people still walk all over that person. Well, that doesn't make sense with karma, right? Here's what's actually happening. So that law of reflections we talked about earlier, basically what's getting reflected back to us is how we are being toward ourselves. So if someone is not treating us very well, there is somewhere in some area of life for us where we are treating ourselves poorly. This is not a fun pill to swallow, and I will encourage you guys to remember, all of this is in our subconscious. So when you first hear this and you immediately think, oh, I treat myself so well, this doesn't apply to me, that's your ego trying to not get fired. Your ego doesn't want you to get uncomfortable, to get out of that comfort zone and actually rewire what's going on. So the more that you can realize, okay, my ego is just trying to protect me. Cool. Now let me look in even further into, okay, I wouldn't be getting this reflection of someone treating me poorly if there wasn't some part of my energy that's programmed to treat me poorly.
That is such a strong point that you just made, because oftentimes kind people, or people who are kind and people who are, always going out of their way, you're right, they are the ones to get treated poorly because they put themselves last. And when things like that do happen, they do question, because I'm one of them, I do question, why does this keep happening to me? Or it's like a loop of, oh, bad things happen to good people, for example. It's some of those things that we say to ourselves because, things are just happening. But then on the contrary, the people who are hurting us seem to always be lucky, right? And does that mean that you have to be rude, or you have to be like self-prioritize yourself to be lucky? I mean, what is it? Because it's kind of confusing. It's like, what is that fine medium of being nice, taking care of yourself, and still prioritizing whatever that is? It is important, right? So do you see what I'm saying? It kind of gets really tricky here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that we're going this way, because we're here to get you guys solutions. So here's the thing. You can still be like such a kind person, show up for your people, love them so hard. And here's a little side note. Having the physical conversations about boundaries and expectations, etc., obviously always a good thing. We are energetic beings in physical bodies, so we need both the energetic and the physical. However, everything starts out as an energetic or emotional root cause. So if you just have the conversation of, hey, don't treat me that way, but you don't reprogram your energy, those reflections in your reality aren't going to change. So the solution here is self-love. And self-love is actually our ability to put ourselves first. Now, the massages and the pedicures and whatnot, those are great. Like, please do those. But those are more self-care, and they're not actually going to do anything to reprogram your energy. So in order to actually reprogram your energy, specifically with self-love, we need to make sure we are doing something for ourselves first thing in the morning before we are showing up for anyone or anything else. And I don't know who can relate, but I used to be the girl who alarm goes off, I'm looking at my emails, I'm opening social media, I feel just so much urgency around everything. I immediately feel like I need to get up, brush my teeth, chug the coffee, and open my computer. And I think a lot of us feel that way in today's world because that's just how we've been programmed. It's not our fault. This is not about blaming or shaming ourselves. But once you have these tools and you know how to hack the system with self-love, you got to start doing it because your higher self knows that you understand this now. And she's going to start throwing more and more reflections at you to help you get what you want faster. So with self-love, obviously everybody's schedule looks different. I'm not saying you need a 4-hour morning routine where you're alternating between the sauna and the cold plunge. Like, that's not it at all. And especially if you're a mom, I am not a mom, but from the mothers that I have talked with and heard from, even if you can just take 5 minutes in the morning, if you have to get up 5 minutes earlier and just take some deep breaths, maybe you write down your intentions for the day. That is not only one, going to set the tone for your day, but also two, you are going to be reprogramming and building up your self-love. And finally, three, you're going to get reflections of that in your life where people are prioritizing you, putting you first, choosing you. They want to work with you. They want to pay you. They want to hire you. They want to hang out with you, right? And those are the reflections that we actually want to be creating. So that's kind of how it all ties together with self-love and putting ourselves first.
Yeah, I totally resonate with it. I love the fact that you mentioned when you prioritize yourself, you see reflections of other people, other things prioritizing you. And I think a great example would be, when, like you said, prioritize yourself first thing in the morning, doing things that help my body, my mind, or just give me that sense of, the sense of fulfillment that, yeah, I did something for myself today. But also, when you're given a situation where you have to prioritize doing something for you versus going out with your friends and you still prioritize you, that's almost creating, one, a boundary, but also two, self-respect, because you know where your time is going. You know what's important for you. And so by just doing that, the people around you will start to respect you because you are creating time for yourself and doing things for yourself. And I think that's how you also attract opportunities because, you're doing things that will get to where you want to be and not just, it's not bad to spend time with your friends, but the point is that you're prioritizing your growth, whatever that may be, whatever growth looks like for you. So that's an amazing point. But you also mentioned two things. You mentioned higher self and energy. So for those that are listening, how would you describe higher self? What is higher self?
Yes, such a good question. So higher self is basically the version of us in this current lifetime with no limitations, like no limiting beliefs, none of these programs running in our mind that are like
person
blocking us and keeping us stuck. So that's the first part to understand. The second part is understanding, like truly, truly knowing that our higher selves are so intelligent, like beyond anything that our human selves could comprehend. The higher self orchestrates everything. It is very, very difficult to surprise the higher self. And this would be a topic for a whole other day, but it's basically a lot of people will say like, oh, I manifested that, when really the higher self already had it orchestrated. It was in the soul's plan, So even myself learning that, I was like, man, I got to go back and reteach everything that I said I manifested because my higher self actually already had that planned out. But that's what is going on with the higher self.
Got it. And what about energy? You mentioned that we're energetic beings. So what does that mean? What kind of energy? What is energy? Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So on the scientific, all of this is grounded in science, right?
Yeah.
the thing
it's
is
just coming to light now. I feel like several years ago it was kind of woo-woo, but now it's like they're tying it to physics and just general science, and we're seeing it more from a fact-based perspective. So it's amazing.
Yeah. And as with anything, like there's going to be quote unquote good teachings and quote unquote bad teachings. Like there's parts of the woo-woo world that are true, but science hasn't caught up yet. And then there's parts of the woo-woo world that are just not like backed up by anything.
More on the spiritual aspect. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you kind of just got to tune into that. But as far as the energy situation goes, if we remember our middle school science classes where we learned about protons and neutrons and electrons, right? These are all subatomic particles that are like flying around, right? They're vibrating at certain frequencies. And that's what everything in the world is made up of, including us. So we are literally just this big, we're not even, I don't even want to say like a glob of energy, because we're like 99% space if you think about all of the subatomic particles flying around. But the reason that we take a physical form is because our matter, so all of those particles, is slowed down enough that we can see it with our physical eyes. So if we were vibrating too quickly, we wouldn't be on that visible light spectrum. We wouldn't be able to see ourselves. And so that's things like, ultraviolet and microwaves, radio waves, right? Like all of those things are real. We just can't see them with our human eyes.
Yeah. Got it. And so you mentioned that, when we have these blocks or when there's root causes to why we feel stuck, why is it that, we're not able to really reach our highest potential? Especially nowadays, what I see is a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health issues, lots of blockages with money, health. And I think the most unique aspect to this is that we want it. We go after money, we go after health, we go after success, but there's something in us that we're probably telling ourselves that's keeping us away from it, from a lens of I don't want this instead of I want this. Mm-hmm. So do you think that's also energy, and is that the root cause, or are there other root causes that are contributing towards us not achieving what we want?
Totally. So we could take this like so many different directions. I'll try and just give like an overview of all the different layers, and we can go from there. So everything is energy, right? Including our thoughts and emotions. Those thoughts and emotions, like we talked about, they create the programs that tend to block us from what we desire. And here's the thing. If you have a desire, like a true soul desire, it's different from a human want. A human want is like, I want the YSL bag. I want the Miami trip, right? There's something deeper than that. But if you have a true soul desire that was placed within you for a reason, the word desire is a Latin derivative meaning of the Father. So wherever you're at with your faith, whatever you believe in, we're just talking about a parent energy, right? That desire was placed in you for a reason. You are designed perfectly to be who you are here to be and do what you are here to do. The problem is that we also have our human thoughts and emotions that get in our way. I think the biggest thing to realize about this when you get into this work is that this is by design, because our souls really, really desire growth. They desire really fast growth. And Earth is one of the, if not the best place for that to happen. And so when we have these challenges and these struggles and we're frustrated, just know you're probably on the right path. You are probably on your higher self path, because if things were easy, it just doesn't work that way, right? Yeah. So in knowing that the higher self path is the most difficult path, and that this is by design, because if we didn't have these challenges and these struggles and we just actualized all of our goals, we're just going to cross over. Okay, we didn't come down here to just do that really fast, right? We want like long, happy, healthy,
sustainable,
a fulfilling life. And so there's a saying out there, new levels, new devils. And you guys can probably think of this in your own life. I know that I certainly can, where it's like, oh my gosh, I finally got this thing that I wanted for so long. And then 2 days later, I found a new problem to solve. So
we're not fulfilled. Yeah.
Keeping all of that in mind, like, hey, this is by design. It's a good thing that I'm going through these challenges because it helps me grow, which is like one of my soul's highest values. It's everyone's. Then in terms of the energetic blocks, basically, like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a program running that is blocking you. So, I did a whole money series in my broadcast channel last week where I asked people, okay, like, why would you actually not want to make more money? And that's a really hard one to answer because we all think, oh, more money will like solve my problems. Not all my problems. Like we don't want to be, greedy, money hungry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, hello, it provides access, it provides convenience. The thing is, and this is just one of the layers we're talking about with blocks here, there is a universal law called the law of opposing forces, which just means if we really, really, really want something, that thing has to really, really, really not want us. So if we're in that needy energy, think about like relationships, right? If someone just constantly texting you like, hey, where are you at? What are you doing? When are you coming home? Like, who are you with? You are just repelled.
You don't want it. Yeah. It's like you have like a
money is the same way. Like it applies to everything. So it could be whatever we're desiring, wanting, whatever's going on. We're just way too attached to it. That's one layer. We've got the programs that might be in the way, which again, let's stick with the money example. If I ask someone or someone comes to me and they're like, I just don't get it. I do everything I'm supposed to. I check all my boxes. I run my business. I do my money affirmations and I just don't make more money. I'm going to look in to their energy and figure out where they are energetically blocked. And it's going to have something to do with value because money is tied to value. Those are, synonymous. So the person that's not valuing themselves at a high level is not going to be an energetic match for a high level of money. But they're not going to believe me because they're going to say, no. I do my morning routine every day. It takes me 30 minutes. I do my money affirmations and I'm going to say, yeah, that's great. But first of all, and we'll get into this on this episode too, affirmations aren't doing anything for you. And second of all, what are you doing for the other 23 hours and 30 minutes of your day? You are subconsciously talking smack on yourself. You're not valuing yourself. You're not seeing how incredible of a soul you are. And so your reality is just reflecting that back to you in the form of, okay, I'm not making as much money as I want to. Really, that's your higher self giving you on a silver platter exactly what gets to be shifted next.
Right. And I think the other thing is, that you made a great point is, yes, it's about valuing ourselves, but the other end of it is also, what are your beliefs about money too, right? Do you deserve money? Do you think money comes to you? Those beliefs, I think play a really big role in it too. I think in my life, I've seen there were several times where, I get something, but I don't think I deserve it into like somewhere subconsciously. And then it just results in it being my life for a short period of time and it goes away. Right. And even though it came to me easily and maybe I just didn't believe that I deserved it. Right. But had I felt that I was deserving of it, maybe it would have been a more sustainable approach. So, and I see this with a lot of people, especially when it comes to how we're brought up and kind of our values, what our families, think of some of the beliefs that have been instilled in us from a very young age, especially around money, health, what other people think of us, the beliefs of around success, really putting yourself out there. There's a huge list. So we talked about the root cause, which is basically our belief system. And so what are some of the most common limiting beliefs that you see that people hold on to? And what are some ways to rewire that or reprogram that?
Such a good question. So we talked a lot already about self-love. That's always going to be a big one. I've read several people, and including myself, like we all start with very low numbers in the self-love department. And again, it's not about blaming or shaming ourselves. We were not taught this
Taught,
work,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be a big root cause. And then another one's going to be self-image. So there's two parts to self-image. The first one is how we see ourselves. That makes sense, right? The second part is how we think other people see us. And obviously we care a lot about what people think of us.
Yeah.
So we've got certain tools to reprogram that, of course. And the other one is just the programming, like you said, that we've picked up along the way. Again, it's by design. If you know about human psychology, you know our formative years are just so important. We take on lessons from like our parents and our caregivers and our teachers and other kids.
What we see. Yeah, it's like see monkey, do monkey. What we see is what we do.
Yeah, literally. And just to take it even a step further about how that's by design, all of our souls chose specific things in life to master. So, for example, one of mine is to master finances, which also means I am going to struggle the hardest with finances. I am going to get the biggest reflections with finances. And I chose parents who were not going to give me the greatest money mindset because my soul desired to master them. If I grew up in a wealthy family, I probably would have been like, oh, okay, like things are good all the time. I don't really need to understand money. Right? So between the self-love, the self-image, and the programs we pick up along the way, that basically covers the root causes.
Yeah. And so my next question to that is, how do we identify these root causes? Because, it's 2025. We all live such busy lives. We're always hustling. It's like that go, go, go. But we don't pause to really reflect on what's happening in our lives. Do we even feel stuck? We see our credit card bills, we see our bank account, but do we take the time to realize what it is that our belief system is that it's causing it? Like, do we even do that, right? Because like you said, we're not taught this stuff. So what are some ways to recognize there are some blocks in our areas? Not just money, but even health or beliefs, anything.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Because you're absolutely right. Most people, I don't think people in your audience are in this spot because they're already, ready to grow. They're here, they're listening. But most people in today's world, they cannot even sit still with their thoughts, no distractions. And I used to be right there too. Like, I remember the first personal development coach I hired, my first assignment was to spend an hour without my phone, TV, people, anything, no distractions.
So hard.
And just people came up. I was physically unwell. I was like, I'll do this in the shower because I can't have my phone in here. I made it 30 minutes and I was like, I need to lay down. Like, I'm not. But here's the thing. Your intuition is going to show you exactly what needs to come up. So I promise you, as uncomfortable as it is, taking time and space to just sit there and see what comes up. Everybody has intuition. You just get to train it like a muscle. We'll get into that, I'm sure. But you have intuition. You are more intuitive than you think. So see what comes up. You're probably going to think that you're making stuff up. You are not. For example, if we're talking about money, you might think, oh my gosh, I'm always stuck at this financial level. And maybe it's because I feel like I don't deserve it. Like, that's weird. That came out of nowhere. That did not come out of nowhere. You did not make it up. That's your higher self telling you. If it's with relationships and you're thinking, I keep going through the same toxic pattern. It's the same problem. Every relationship, like I'm the common denominator. What's wrong with me? Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. But second, you're realizing, okay, I am the common denominator. So how can I take responsibility to shift this? And start there. I understand that that's very vague and it's going to be uncomfortable, but start there. And then the next tool that I want to give you is thinking back to the reflections. So if you do have like a repeating pattern in your life, or you have anything really that is triggering to you, a trigger is going to be a reflection, all of which are gifts for us. So if you've just got something that really gets under your skin, there's a 2-part process here to figuring out your reflections. Step 1 is ask yourself, how do I feel like that person or that thing is being? Okay, answer that. Maybe they're being super disrespectful. Okay. Part 2 is, okay, where am I being that way toward myself? And it's probably not going to be in the same area of life that reflection showed up. Maybe someone's disrespectful to you at work. It doesn't necessarily mean you're disrespecting yourself in your career area of life. In fact, mostly it's going to be in a different area of life, but we're going to see the reflections in the area where we're paying the most attention. So transparently for me, it's always business and finances. Like that's where I get my reflections. I'm thriving in my relationships. I'm like thriving with my hobbies and passions, but I'm getting my reflections in those areas because my higher self knows that's where I'll pay attention and I'll shift things really quickly. So in that example, if someone's being disrespectful to you at work, well, where are you maybe not respecting your own boundaries? Now we're back to self-love. Are you not putting yourself first? It's going to look different for everyone, but that's where you can start to kind of decode what's going on. Because again, this is in your subconscious. So it's going to take some digging to find it.
Totally. Wow, that second question is so powerful. First whatever is triggering you figure it out, but then you come back to yourself and you're asking yourself, where am I treating myself that way? Wow, that is so powerful. So before we go to intuition, which I'm super excited to talk to you about because I know that's where your expertise is, I want to also wrap up one last thing about belief systems. So I struggle with this, and I know several other people struggle with this. Thoughts, intrusive, negative thoughts, self-talk, whatever you want to call them, and it is sabotaging us to the extent that we don't even realize it is. So when it comes to thoughts, it's not an external force, right? Like for example, with what you said about relationships, it's not someone treating us. It's not about money going away from us. It's nothing external, but it's more internal. What is it about thoughts that are so triggering, and what does that mean when it comes to how I'm supposed to be feeling, how I am treating myself when it comes to intrusive thoughts?
Okay, so here's the thing. If we're having a negative thought, it's first of all just kind of giving us a little peek into the subconscious about what we believe to be true about ourselves. So that's helping us, right? There's these things like challenges, triggers, spiraling thoughts, and trust me, I was there last month. I was not in a good place. They are there to help us. But what happens is we'll have the thought, right? And remember that our subconscious minds, whatever is in the front, like whatever file just got pulled up, we start to scan our reality and look for evidence that proves that true. So if we have this one little thought of like, maybe this project like isn't meant to work out. Yeah. Your subconscious immediately gets to work and is like, boom, new program. Let's find all the reasons why. XYZ, 1, 2, 3, and you start clocking this laundry list of like evidence.
And it happens in fractions of seconds, right?
So quick. Quick. And also, we can use this to our advantage. This can work for quote unquote good too, which is what we do with the subconscious reprogramming. And I don't know if now would be the good time to like go into the tool for that to help reframe these.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Whatever goes with the flow.
Yeah, if you guys get anything from this episode, it's got to be this tool. This will change your life. So when you're having those thoughts, let's just go generic. Maybe I'm not meant for this. Whatever it is that you're working on.
Or I don't deserve this. Yeah.
That's a common one. Maybe I don't deserve this. Okay. Thank you for that thought. Next step, immediately. What would feel better to believe instead? And this is like a shortcut. If we use intuition, we'll find exactly what needs to be programmed, but this is like the best shortcut. Okay. What if instead I believed I am meant for this? And not only this, but like so much more. Like I'm meant for success. Okay, let's take it even a notch further. I am meant for massive success. That feels fun. Like, let's just play stupid idea time. Like, what if I'm meant for massive success? Cool. So you're going to create a note. You can do pen and paper if you want. I prefer the notes app on my phone, so it's always with me. And this is going to be a statement at the top of your note. I am meant for massive success. Now, this is where most people just stop. These are their affirmations, right? I am wealthy. I am abundant. I'm a millionaire. Yeah. Your subconscious mind is like, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Right? That's what I was going to say. It gives me so many evidences whenever I'm reading these affirmations. I'm like, Really? Like I see my bank account, I see my I don't know.
Yep. So the problem with affirmations is that they only target our conscious brain. And you guys obviously know by now that that's not who's in charge. It's the subconscious. The subconscious works on emotions. And so we need to emotionally connect, and I'll teach you how, to these statements. So we're going to have your note here. I am meant for massive success. You're going to bullet point out all the evidence, memories, reasons that that's true. And I call these micro moments because you're not going to have a $10,000 deposit in your bank account every day. Like that, we hope that happens for you, but it's not going to happen every day. So we got to get your brain on board with pointing out left and right. Oh my gosh, here's a reason that I am meant for massive success. I use this example today. Okay, I got asked to be on Dolica's podcast. Amazing. I get to talk to new people. I get to hang out with Dolica. Like, I get to reach new people, and whether anybody like signs up or not, cool. I got more people in the community. Like, you just have to find the angle, and you get to be very creative. These micro moments can be so simple. It could be something like, the other day I got a tax refund for the first time in my life from the state of California, and I latched onto that little piece of evidence, micro momented that for so many like ingredients for myself, and I was like, money comes to me so fast. Look at that. I got a refund from the state, and it was not that much money. I don't care. I found a penny on the ground the other day, and I used it as a micro moment. I was like, oh, I find money everywhere. Money comes to me. So I want you guys to just remember, it doesn't have to be these big, grandiose moments. So you'll have your list of micro moments. I would recommend doing these in the morning to help hit that self-love as well.
Right.
Try to add at least one per day, but you can add to it throughout the day. And as you do this, you're going to be building a new neural pathway. Now, it takes 20 repetitions to build a new pathway. It takes 40 repetitions to make it a habit, and it takes 60 repetitions to make it that non-declarative memory where it's on default, it's on autopilot. Now, here's the thing. As you are feeding this new neural pathway, you're suffocating the old one. You're not going to just stop after 60 repetitions.
Like it's resisting, right? It's like internally, both the brains are fighting almost.
Yes, it's going to be clunky. It is going to feel like BS. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But the more you feed that new one, and I'll get to the emotional connection piece in a second because that's the non-negotiable. The more you feed the new one, the old one's going to die off. But you have to keep feeding it, or that old one is going to fight back with a vengeance. It will pop up when you least expect it. And as you do this more over time, you're not going to have to be writing these micro moments in your notes every day because your brain's going to be trained to find them. I have certain like emotional ingredients that I have programmed a while back that I can still just catch myself like picking up on them left and right because I trained my brain. So that's what that looks like. Now, the emotional connection piece. As I said, the subconscious runs on emotions. So if we don't do this part, it's not going to work. This is non-negotiable. Basically, what you want to do is with each micro moment, let's say you write one down, I want you to step back into the memory and feel how you felt in that moment. Like, get very elaborate, say it out loud if you need to, like you're telling a little kid a story, and just really blow up like every piece of it. Like, oh my gosh, I was in my office and the sun was out and I was doing a podcast with Dolica and my oil infuser was going, and then I just got, a new client and I came out of nowhere. I was so surprised and I knew that my energy work was working. Like, you really want to get in there with it. You'll feel in your body when you emotionally connect. If you're having trouble doing that, there are two other ways that you can do this. One is going to be basically like pretending you're a character, pretending you're like a cartoon character, and just like embodying what you felt in that moment. So for me, maybe I'm like really excited. I have like my hands in the air. Like, wow, new client, right? You can like really, really embody it. That will help. Or the third way, I really like this one, but it's called creating future memories. So this would be like creating a vision that you have that hasn't happened yet, right? So it's happening in the future. Maybe for me, I'm picturing myself like I'm standing on stage, I'm staring out at like thousands of people, I'm holding the microphone and I'm just smiling. And I'm thinking about like people are clapping, people are smiling, people are like leaning forward, they're loving what I'm saying, right? Like you just got to really immerse yourself in it because the brain doesn't know what's real and what's imagined. And so this is how we can hack the system. I know that was a lot, but that's the best tool ever. So
wow. Yeah, no, this is an amazing, you've really laid it out step by step. So this is an amazing process that I think we should all follow, especially when we're struggling with something. I think for me, it's like transparently, it's intrusive thoughts, the negative self-talk, and just, I think there's a lot of work that I'm working on to change that belief system. And when those thoughts do come up, it's like I have my coping mechanisms ready to go. But that's not helping because it's like putting everything under the carpet, but things are gonna definitely come out, right? At some point, the carpet needs to be cleaned. So, when it comes to coping mechanisms, how do you kind of switch from someone gets this intrusive thought, they have this coping mechanism ready, but at the same time they're taught this new tool of don't lean into the coping mechanism, but lean into this new tool. What would that process look like going from a thought to reprogramming?
Yeah, totally. And I can speak to this because I really had to get in the weeds with this one myself a few weeks ago. I was struggling. I have not spiraled like that in a while, and it's all good. It happens for a reason. But
there's a lot of eclipses going around, so
that was also a problem for me.
Yeah,
for everyone.
March was chaos. Yes.
Yeah. So in those moments, I would say like very, very bare minimum, just do some kind of breath work. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can literally I like box breathing. That's where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Nothing, even if you don't even want to count your breaths, just like take some deep breaths. That is it. Breath work is the most efficient way to regulate our nervous systems, which is not the ultimate solution. It's a band-aid, but in these moments, we need the band-aids, right? It's the quickest way to regulate the nervous system. And you know what I love about breathwork is 1, it's free, and 2, we know how to do it. Like, what an incredible tool that we were all born with, right? So in those moments, you start to show your body, okay, I'm safe. I don't need to be in fight or flight. And I mean, transparently, that's something I'm working through too, because my brain loves to spiral, again, with like business and finances of, oh my gosh, I'm going to live in a cardboard box next month. So what I did is I calmed my physical self down and I sat down with my journal and I wrote down, I was like, why is this not true? Like, why are you actually meant for success?
The contrary of the tool that you gave us, but the opposite of why whatever you're thinking is not true.
Yeah. Awesome. And then the first thing that came through was like, well, you've been a full-time entrepreneur for 7 years. Think you're okay. And I am. Like, on paper, I am more than okay. It's just our minds, like the really brain, love to just take us for a spin. So I would do that. I like a journal sesh, like a brain dump, because then I feel like I don't have to hold on to everything in my mind. It's on the paper, so I'm not going to lose it or forget it. And it just kind of creates some space in there, because here's the thing with reprogramming and any of this work that we do on ourselves, you got to clear out the old stuff first to build the new stuff. It's like if you moved in somewhere and there was furniture in there, you're not going to put your furniture on
space.
Top of it.
Yeah.
You got to create space. And what happens when we suppress our emotions is they just build up all the way to the top. There's no room for anything else. We don't feel good. And they're going to like be pressurized and come out eventually, probably at a far less convenient time than you sitting down in your home with a journal.
Yeah, it's so practical, and the practical tips that you're also giving us are very easy to do. I think the only thing that requires of us is time.
Yeah.
Take that 1 hour away from your phone, away from your TV, away from Netflix, or whatever it is that you use to cope, and just, invest in yourself and your growth. And I think we'll probably see a lot of improvement in how we feel and how we do. And even I think our growth will speak for itself. So let's move on to intuition. What is intuition?
Yes. Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, everybody has intuition. It's just like a muscle. You can train it. That's what I've spent years doing. So if anybody ever tells you like, oh, you just have to be born with it or whatever, they lying. Okay. That's not true. So I want everybody to realize how powerful you are. And basically intuition is our ability to, when you learn how to like ask the right questions and train your intuition and just all the layers to it, you can get 100% accurate information from your higher self. You can get that information from, source, God, light, universe, whatever faith container you're in, whatever you're connected to. You can get 100% accurate information there. You can ask any question you want. It's like a 24/7 life coach in your mind. It's like a little GPS. I use it every single day. And you can also use it, if you're a coach or a healer of any kind, you can read other people's energy. There are different energy fields. So like we talked about previously, if I'm doing a session with a client, first I'm checking in on their energy, like in their mind, what they believe to be true about their reality. So whatever programs are going on, that's not the absolute truth. So first I find that, then I back out, and then I'm talking to the higher self about, okay, what's really going on here? And what do we need to do to shift it? So there's different energy fields, but basically you can get any answer to any question ever. Like literally, I don't even use Google anymore because I'm so just connected, and anybody can do this. I'm not special. I will tell you, it has already brought me a lifetime worth of peace, because when I'm in those moments freaking out and I just check in with my higher self and I ask the right questions, I can immediately shift states and remember like, oh yeah, I'm good.
Mm. So it sounds almost like sixth sense.
Yeah.
Like sixth sense. Like, when something happens and you're like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. My sixth sense was telling me this is going to happen. So it's basically those moments that you actually have to give attention to and consider them to be those hints that, hey, maybe you should consider doing this, or maybe you should consider not doing this, or vice versa, right? Is that what
it will guide you. So that's where it starts, right? Like we'll all have those times where, and I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but everybody's got their different like gifts basically, where I have always been very clairvoyant, which just means like you can see in your mind's eye things that like are going to happen, and then they happen. And when I figured this out, it was like honestly the strangest day of my life. Like this crazy thing happened, and we won't get into that today, but anyways, like my dreams would come true, whatever. When you have these weird little synchronicities that you're like, wait a minute, I thought about that, or like I saw this word 3 times today. Why do I keep seeing that word? It's just like little winks from, your
like
higher self. Yeah. Reminding you like, hey, you are intuitive. The thing is, and this is why I just cannot recommend training your intuition enough. There's a lot of just like, I don't know, like it's not rumors, it's like misinformation about intuition, where especially emotions can get tangled up with our intuitive decision-making abilities. And so we can also, you might think, okay, well, if this project hasn't worked out yet, it's not meant for me. It's not meant to be. That's your emotions talking. That's your emotions saying, oh, we're not successful. Where in all reality, it might be 100% meant for you. You're meant to master it, and you're on the right path because you just have a couple more energetic puzzle pieces to click into place, and you just catapult. But you wouldn't know that if you hadn't trained your intuition to ask the right questions. Another thing is that, we interact with other energetic beings all day, every day. And if you're not recovering that energy every single night, if you're not protecting your own energy every single morning, over 95% of our thoughts are not actually ours. We're like picking them up from other people. We're reading someone else's thoughts, and then our brain latches onto it and amplifies it and finds all the evidence why we're going to fail. Like, it's wild when you learn these tools and practices, how well you can stay grounded in yourself and just have the clearest vision of your life, your business, your family, all of it, and just know where you're going. And you're way, way more unbothered by all the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I think half of the things that I think about, the irrational thoughts, the negative thoughts that we were talking about earlier, is mostly things that I see around me, not of me. Because that's our environment. We hear these stories, we see things, and it just kind of consumes my brain, and it thinks that is for me. But in reality, that's not my identity. And so for someone struggling with maybe thoughts or maybe, situations or external forces coming through, how can someone differentiate, an intuitive thought versus an irrational thought? Because I think that's also important to know, because being intuitive and listening to your intuition is great, but if you're listening to the wrong thought, then it's almost like you created that reality. So how would you kind of help someone understand how to distinguish the two?
Yeah, totally. And this is such a great place to start because intuition is so taboo and like it's intangible, right? So some people, I'm sure when they see that I'm an intuitive, they're like, okay, big whoop, like what's that even mean? So here's the thing. Intuition is going to be very neutral and matter of fact. Like it's just gonna come through and you're gonna be like, huh, interesting. Like I just know that that's true. Whereas
and it's just gonna go away sometimes too if you don't pay attention to it.
Yes, 100%. Whereas an emotional thought, obviously, you're highly emotional about it. You're like spiraling and slippery slope. Oh my gosh, right? Like there was a time, this is just such a random intuition story that I remember. But my friend had come home from a trip and she hadn't said anything about what I'm about to tell you. But I was like cooking dinner and I just all of a sudden knew. I was like, oh my God, she's talking to this guy. I just knew. And I'm cooking dinner, like 5 minutes goes by and it's just like the loudest thought. Like she's for sure talking to that guy. But I wasn't emotional about it. I was like, this is so weird. Like, why do I just know
why do you care about someone?
Yeah. And then the next day she, like told me or whatever. And I was like, dude, you want to know what's crazy? Like, I just knew that during dinner last night. And I had, like, I should not have known that. There was no reason for me to know that. And so
you just picked it up.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is it'll just be super neutral and matter of fact. Whereas on the other hand, if you've got a spiral going on or an intrusive thought, your emotions are going to latch onto it.
Okay, so I guess the best way to distinguish is to listen to your emotion. What kind of emotion is it giving you? If it's an intrusive thought, obviously it's going to put you in that fight or flight mode. Whereas if it's just just a thought, and if you have no emotions to it, maybe that is something that you should tune into, potentially leading to a better outcome.
Yeah, awesome. Just like, what is this? What is this telling me right now?
All right. So in that case, can you tell us a little, like a personal, experience where intuition guided you and you almost made like a significant decision or it led you to a breakthrough? Something that was very impactful for you.
Yeah, the biggest one would be back when I was in law school. I was in my final semester, and for about a year before that, at this time, I was like consuming fitness social media. Like YouTube was blowing up, Instagram was blowing up. I made my own like fitness Instagram, which is the account that you guys will see today. It still has the word fit on it, but that's just because I don't know. There's no other handles that I like. Anyways, it's still a part of me. But I had this thought in the back of my mind for months, probably honestly years, where I was like, I want to do something with this. I don't know if I was like going to be a coach or like a fitness influencer or whatever, but there was just something in the back of my mind always. And I just ignored it. I felt like I was living a double life. I'd go to law school and then I'd like be my actual self on my fitness Instagram and have so much fun with like my fitness people. But the people in my real life had no idea. And so then I'm in my final semester and my plan was to take the bar and practice law until I could like be a full-time fitness coach. And so final semester, in typical overachiever fashion, I have enrolled in an early bar prep class. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this thing. I did not make it very far into that semester. About 2 weeks in, that class sent me, like I started having very strange physical symptoms. And I meant to say this earlier. Physical symptoms, everything starts out as an emotional root cause. And those symptoms, as annoying as they can be, they're here to help us. Like they're messengers, right? So I'm having all these symptoms. Very strange things. I can't even remember all of them now. At first, it felt like I just had, a cold or whatever. My throat was sore. I was congested. But then it started turning into like central nervous system stuff, like, migraines, and my heart rate was elevated and it would stay there. Like I remember sitting in class one day. I'm not doing physical activity. Resting heart rate was in the 160s. That was the day I took my Apple Watch off, and I was convinced that like this was the end. I was thinking, okay, I got to go travel the world. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't want to know, but this is it. So eventually it gets so bad. This is like in the span of 2 to 3 weeks, and I leave class. I go to urgent care. I'm like having a full on panic attack. I probably should not have even been driving at that time, but I was just whatever. That was my story. They tell me it's anxiety. They offer me pills. And I have no judgment toward anybody who uses medication for anything. Everybody's got their own choice. But in that moment, I was just determined to figure this out for myself. And I said, nope. And I was like, okay, this is crazy what is happening right now, but I'm going to figure it out. And within like the next, probably another 2 to 3 weeks, like it took a minute for me to calm down. I eventually verbalized to like a friend. I was like, I don't want to take the bar exam. And when I said that, I felt so much weight, like literally lift off my shoulders. I felt like a glimmer. I felt like there was a glimmer at the end of the tunnel. And when I decided, okay, I'm really not doing this, I told my family, I finished law school. Like I was still going to graduate because I wanted the JD. And also I was so close. Like that would be so dumb to just drop out right then. I graduated. That was December 2018. I had a few clients already. So then I just went, full time was me sitting at my desk every morning after I graduated. Like, what does a business owner do? Like, I guess I'll write an email to my 4 people on my list. And then 3 months later, so March 2019, I moved to San Diego from Kansas City. That's where I was. I'm from Kansas. And I knew it was going to work that whole time. I did not have money to my name. I had just graduated law school. I wasn't taking the bar. But I didn't care what anybody said because I just knew it was going to work. Then I had a launch, manifested like $5,000. That was like a $5,000 launch, which was like what I thought I needed to move across the country. And I did it. I moved across the country with $5,000 to my name, booked the pod, drove my Honda Civic, and it all worked out. So here we are.
Wow. You listened to your gut, essentially.
Yeah, that was the first time my intuition really kicked me in the butt.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. But there were several challenges you went through though, right? Because I was going to say this earlier, is sometimes the things that we do in our day to day, we're doing this because we're going after the titles, we're going after people pleasing, we're going after doing something just because someone else told us to, right? But our heart isn't there, our gut isn't there. Like, for example, we want to be engineers, we want to be doctors, we want to be lawyers just because, it'll make our family feel happy, or because someone else told us that that's what's going to pay the bills. But somewhere in us, that's not where our heart is. And so listening to our gut to really find what that is, I think it just takes a huge strength. Like, it just takes a lot of strength to listen to your gut too, because it's almost like you're going against the people that are telling you what's best for you, right? And so during that process, there's also some fear-based thinking of, is this even going to lead me to the right path? What if this doesn't work out? I think it's very nice to hear that you had that strong intuition that this is going to work out, because oftentimes that may or may not be the case. And especially when we're going against something, they're more, negative outcomes more than positive ones. And so shifting that narrative, or just not thinking about the worst case scenario, is really challenging. So how did you do that? How did you ever even have that thought of, what if this doesn't work out? Or did you always know that this is the best thing for me?
Yeah. So in that situation, I did not have a doubt. I just knew. I was like, this is going to work out. Like, I know for a fact I'm not going to be a lawyer. Like, on paper, the path was laid out. I would have had a great job, would have made good money, and everybody tells you it's so prestigious, and oh my gosh, don't even worry about your student loans because you're going to make so much money. And I was like, I don't care about any of that. I don't care what anybody says or anybody thinks, because I got pushed to being that uncomfortable. If I hadn't gotten pushed to being that uncomfortable, who knows where I would be right now. I would have learned the lesson probably later. I would have slowed down my timelines, et cetera, et cetera. However, I've had situations since then, like we talked about, I've pivoted many a time where I am more scared, and I'm thinking worst case scenario. But again, that's where intuition comes in, and having that tool of knowing, like, my higher self's going to give it to me straight. If I'm on the wrong path, or I'm heading in a direction that is not for me, she's either going to tell me and I'm going to listen, or she's going to show me and I'm going to have to listen. Because as soon as I get any kind of like body reflection, physical symptom, I don't feel well, I immediately check in. I've gotten a lot faster at this. And again, like you guys can do this too. But after having that panic attack, I realized I am never letting it get this bad again. Like if just something feels a little bit off, if you're not 100% fulfilled in what you're doing, if you're kind of entertaining like maybe a different idea, please lean into it. Like I do not want anybody else ending up in the urgent care waiting room thinking you're going to perish that day.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Wow. That's amazing. And so when it comes to building that intuitive mind, would you say the primary thing to get rid of is the energetic block, essentially?
Like with training your intuition specifically?
Yes.
So your intuition, like it already works. We don't need to it doesn't need fixing or anything like that. But in terms of building it, it's really just training it. So it's like going to the gym, right? You got to take your brain to brain gym for the reprogramming. You got to take your intuitive brain to intuition gym. It's really just getting the reps. And of course, like learning how to do it, how to like make sure nothing is interfering with the information, nothing is manipulating it, that you are directing the question where it needs to be directed to the right energy source, and that you are formulating the question correctly, because intuition is only as good as the questions we ask. So I could ask like, oh, it's a good idea for me to launch a free series in my business. And intuition would probably be like, yeah, like, sure. You got to get really specific. Like, I want to know what this is going to do for me. Like, is this going to be what my audience needs from me? Is this going to help get more people into my world? Is this going to serve the most amount of people? Is this going to bring in the most amount of revenue? Is this going to help me reach my business goals the quickest? Like you got to understand like all the nuances. And that is really the biggest part of it. Like will always train my intuition, but there are still times where I'm kind of getting like, yes, no, maybe all around. And I'm like, okay, I just got to ask better questions because I'm not doing a great job with my language right now.
Yeah, definitely. And so when it comes to asking the right questions, is there a guide, or any, like, do you have any pre-prepared questions that you kind of pull out of your pocket when you're in some of these situations where you need to focus on your intuition, or how do you help your clients come up with the right questions? And the reason for this question is so that our audience also knows what are right questions. Like, how do I even ask myself the right questions?
Yeah. So most of that's going to be in intuition training, which I'm planning to open up soon. Okay. But just as
it has to be done with a professional, basically.
What? Sorry.
Would it have to be done with a professional?
Yeah. So I learned from my mentor, and one part of my soul's mastery list is intuition. So I'm going to be training. I've already trained a few clients on intuition, and it's extremely fulfilling for me. But basically what that looks like is getting in a room with people and like practicing real time with each other. Like, let me read your thoughts and you read mine, and now we'll check and we'll see. And like Melissa will help us. Like my mentor helped me. That's beside the point. I do want to give you guys a tool today. So when you're asking these questions, personally, like one of my favorites is just like, blank is, I'm talking to my higher self in this one. Blank is in the highest good of everyone involved. Blank is in my highest alignment. That way I just know I'm at least on the right track, and then I can refine the questions from there based on, if it's in business, it's going to be about serving people and revenue. If it's in relationships, I want to know that it's in the highest good of both of us or all of us. Like I was supposed to host a retreat this year in Bali for the second time, and I intuitively looked in and it was not in the highest good of everyone involved. So we pushed it to 2026. Like just things like that.
Wow, that's awesome. So can we do a mini intuitive read? Something similar to what you do in your sessions, but just for our audience. So mini one.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. So do I have to tell you kind of like what I'm struggling with?
Let me know. Give me a question that you want me to look into, or any context. Yeah.
Okay. So does it have to be specific to something that I'm struggling with, or is it just kind of what I'm concerned about, or?
Whatever comes through for you.
Okay, so this is basically, it can be anything.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I've said it enough number of times already in this show. So, intrusive thoughts.
You want to know, okay, let's get a little bit more specific. Like, what do you want to know about your intrusive thoughts? You want to know like how to shift them, or like what's the root cause?
Yeah, like if I want to, like, for example, I'm struggling with, thinking that I don't deserve it. This is blank, basically. It can be whatever. So if you do need to know that too.
Well, if you don't want to spill your own tea, you don't have to. I can get in.
No, I mean, just to keep this helpful, and we'll start over because I don't want to, share this. Let me see, because I think one of the biggest things that I like struggle with when it comes to like negative self-talk is I don't deserve happiness, for example, or I don't deserve to be happy. I always think that there has to be some challenge in life. Yeah, maybe we could go with that, right?
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay, let's do that one. I think it's pretty specific. Okay. So okay, I'll start over with the question.
Yeah.
All right, Melissa, can we do a mini intuitive read? Something very similar to what you do in your sessions, but specifically for our audience, so they know what you do and kind of where your expertise is.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so something I'm struggling with is sabotaging my own happiness, in the sense that I always, believe that I don't deserve to be happy, that life is life because it has challenges, and I need challenges. And so when something good happens, it's like I'm almost pushing it away because I just think I don't deserve it. Mm-hmm. And that's all happening subconsciously. And I had to do like layers of work to even understand that this was actually my belief. But yeah.
Okay. Give me a little bit of time here. We'll see what we find. Okay. So you already know some of this with it being your subconscious programming, but there's a piece of you that's almost like addicted to the struggle, like addicted to the challenge, because you love a good challenge because then you can solve it. But then when you solve it, you're like bored. So you create another challenge so you can solve it and like feel good. So you've like got this cycle going. And the deeper root cause of that is, no shocker here, but we're tying back to self-love and self-image. And so here's the deal. I'll give you your percentages in a second. With self-love and self-image, if these are below a 70%, like scale of 0 to 100, 100% being the highest, if they're below a 70, we're just like really not going to be creating our reality the way that we want to. Get it over a 70, we're going to be calling some shots. Get it over a 90, we're going to be like in full control of our reality. So when I give you these numbers, don't be alarmed. Okay, we're all here. We all start
to grow.
With lower numbers.
Start somewhere.
I'm not here to tell you where we're thriving, but your self-love is at about a 17%, and your self-image is at about a 21%. To give you context, these are actually I think they tie. The 21 definitely ties for the highest number that I've read for anyone. So, everyone's on their own journey. Some people are down in like the single digits, and that's okay. But just to give you some context, because you have been doing this work on yourself, and I guarantee you that has boosted these numbers back from where they were.
The single digits.
Yeah. So that's everything from your energy. I do want to actually get you a tool from your higher self. So give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. The best energetic tool for you is going to be pointing out where your statement will be, like things, fill in the blank if you want to, but like things get to be easy. And then you're going to do the bullet points of where things are just easy for you. Like they just flow to, like, oh, I just made that money out of nowhere. Like I made that new friend out of nowhere. I got that opportunity. Like I really didn't have to try that hard for this thing. Like really proving all of that to this piece of you that wants to be addicted to the struggle. That's going to just completely rewire it.
Wow.
Helpful?
Wow. Very, very helpful. But wow. I think you hit the nail on the head, quite honestly. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about all of the things that you said, and it makes sense. Just thinking back at the evidences of why I think that way. Like I was never able to figure it out. I was just like, Maybe because I've just been hearing stories of people struggling, and maybe that's kind of how I came into conclusions. But yeah, maybe I'm kind of used to the challenge.
Yeah. I feel you, girl.
Yeah.
I'm there too. We can both work on this tool.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the tool. Well, I hope our audience got to kind of really get a sense of how this works. To me...
Oh, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I forgot to say, anybody who's listening, use that tool, because since you are here listening to the podcast, you are an energetic match to hear that. So even if it doesn't seem relevant right now, keep it in your back pocket.
Yeah. And wow, I'm just jaw dropped, like literally. It's amazing.
I'm glad it resonated.
Yeah, it definitely did. But yeah, I'm gonna think about this later. So back to the podcast. So when you did that energetic, session that we just did, and you just took a pause and you were trying to read me, I felt this like heaviness in my brain. I don't know if you ever heard anyone say this to you, but is that like a vibration thing or like just energy transfer thing? Have you had anyone say that to you?
I haven't had anyone say that to me, but it is a very normal thing. Like there are certain, everyone's different. Like, yes, everybody has these abilities, but some people are more just like sensitive to energy, like more tuned in, tapped in, like you can kind of just sense things. So I have definitely, I've felt this for myself, and I have heard from other people that they can feel when someone or something like comes into their energy. So you probably just felt me directing the question to literally your brain, because that's where I started to figure out, hey, what's going on here? And then I backed out of that and talked to your higher self.
Yeah. No, I literally could feel this, like this vibration. It was crazy. I mean, I wanted to say it, but I didn't want to interrupt your intuition. And so I was just like, I'll just let her finish. But wow. That was amazing. I'm audience, whoever's listening, watching, you have to reach out to Melissa to get your intuition.
I'm here when you're ready.
Yes. So we're going to talk more after this. But so now back to the podcast. So for the audience, what are some habits, rituals, practices, whatever you want to call it, you recommend for those who are just getting started? So let's say this was the first time someone has just listened to intuition, energy, affirmations even, and they have no idea of what even this self-work or this image work is. What are some practices and habits that you would recommend for them to get started with?
Yeah, so the first thing I'll say is like, there's lots of tools out there that people will tell you, like in the personal development and spiritual worlds, like, this is the thing. This is the thing that changed it all for me. And here's the truth. Like, everybody has a different energetic blueprint. So everybody needs basically different like plugins. Like I might do a journal prompt that changes a lot for me, but it doesn't do anything for my client, because they only need they would only be 12% helped by it, where I would be like 97% helped. So keep in mind that the tools are not what is special. It's you that is special. It's you and the way you use the tools. So don't get super hung up, but here are like very great places to start that I will tell you I recommend to everybody. And that first one is going to be, like we talked about earlier, spending time alone with your thoughts. Ask some questions like we just talked about. Maybe try out your hand at intuition and like actually forming the questions, because you're going to be so surprised at what comes through. And you will very likely be able to achieve such a deep, connected level of peace if you just give yourself a chance. Like truly, just start there. I went through a period of time where I promised myself I would meditate for 30 days. And for me, that just looked like sitting down and like basically channeling. I was just letting things come to me. And at that point in my journey, I was like, holy cow, my spirit guides are talking to me. My angels are telling me this stuff. Like, I'm so good. I can't fail. And just having that space every single day to connect is going to be a great starting point. I would write everything down. I would journal. So try that out. I would say the non-negotiable is definitely going to be your reprogramming in the morning. Even if you just use the tool we did in this podcast, the first one being, I am meant for massive success. Do your bullet points. And the other one being the one we just got, Dolica, about like, hey, things get to be so easy. Those two are so good. Like, I might as well add those to my list. Those are new for me today. Use those tools. Do something for yourself in the morning. Do your reprogramming in the morning. before you tend to anyone else. And that alone is going to be hitting that self-love and changing, I mean, literally everything in your reality. As far as everything else goes, books, podcasts, visualizations, try them out. I test for my clients, like what's going to be the most effective, but you are intuitive too. So if something feels good, it feels life-changing, stick with it. If it doesn't feel so potent for you, don't put pressure on yourself to do it. Like, I don't love 45-minute meditations that are I don't love it. So I do what works for me.
Yeah.
Start there.
Wow. No, thank you so much, Melissa, for that. This didn't come to me easy. And when I say this, I mean just understanding myself, giving time for myself, taking time to do what is going to help me and my mind first thing in the morning before I get to the other things. And the days that I do things that help me first thing in the morning, my entire day is so calm, so peaceful. I'm much more happier with everything and everyone I meet and I come across. Whereas the days where I'm just, as soon as I wake up, I get to the things that I'm supposed to be in the day, then I'm like, there's just a sense of urgency and rush. And I may or may not give my 100% in all the areas that I come across in that day. So, and I think it's so hard to do as well because we live in 2025, so many distractions. Our phone is the first thing that we reach out to. And so, or reach to. And so I think it's like finding that right balance of, hey, how do we prioritize ourselves? What works best for us? Even if it means putting your phone in a different room. I did that when I first started off. I put my phone in a different room and I had like those old alarm clocks. And so that, I could wake up at the time that I, wanted to. Did not reach out to my phone. And initially my family thought I was crazy because, I was like, they were like, oh, what if you have an emergency? I'm like, if someone has an emergency, I'm pretty sure they would call 911, not me. So it was hard initially, but now I have my phone next to me, on airplane mode, but, at least I know my boundaries. I'm at that point where at least I know a few things I should and I shouldn't do. Again, I'm not perfect. Like I said, there are times where I wake up and I'm just not in a good mood and I reach out to my phone, check my email, social media, whatever. But there are days where it's perfect. And, I don't open any apps, and I do all my practices. So I think it's not about being perfect, but it's having a good balance of what makes you feel good, because we also want that serotonin, and throughout the day where we want our happy hormone to be released, and by doing things that give us happiness, in the sense that if you wake up and you want to reach out, reach to your phone and open social media, by all means. I feel like whatever boosts your serotonin throughout the day. But yeah, I think this is a great episode. And for those that are listening and watching, I hope you found this to be incredibly helpful. I did. I had some just amazing, my mind is open right now. So I'm just very, very happy that, we got to learn a lot. So one last question, Melissa, is there anything that you want to share with our audience that I haven't asked or that we haven't discussed about?
Oh man, I did have something like a few minutes ago, and now I might have lost it, which just means it wasn't that important anyway.
Is it the energetic blueprint? Because I know you wanted to actually talk about that. I wrote it down.
No,
I didn't get to it.
I think just like the main thing that's coming through is exactly what you just said about, it's not about being perfect. You don't need to go 0 to 100. And especially if you're really new to this work, it's not easy. I mean, even if you're not new to it, it's not easy. There's new levels. It's clunky. It's uncomfortable. But you were led here to this work and to this episode for a reason. It is not by accident. It is probably because your higher self decided that today, the day you are listening to this, is the day that things start to change. That's what I was going to say earlier. So she came back.
That's awesome, and that's very sweet of you. And I feel like everything you shared in this episode was just amazing. So many key takeaways. I'm so excited for our listeners and our audience to listen to this, watch this, whatever platform they choose. And I can't wait to hear from their. I can't wait to hear what they think about this episode, what they learned, what they found to be life-changing, and etc. So please do comment, please do reach out to us and let us know. But yeah, thank you so much, Melissa. It was great. It was a great episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the links and resources we talked about today. I'm really looking forward to having you tune in for another episode of more topics that peel back the layers of the noise and complexity and return to the raw, the real, and the essential. Until then, take care and thank you so much again for joining me today.